So welcome back to the channel. In this video, an update on Trustswap with a primary focus on the long-term staking pool that went live this month. This has been in the pipeline for quite some time. Been thinking about this one in terms of how to play it. We're going to go through a little bit of that today, but this is a major milestone as well, as it's a key change to the tokenomics of the swap token, encouraging long-term staking. If you don't know anything about it, I'm going to explain it in this video. We've also got a few highlights and updates to go through as well here. So we shall crack on and commence. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. So this is the swap token here. Now, thinking back to, bullish times, launch pads going haywire, and, things got pretty tasty out there. We saw the swap token in the 1s, 2s, 3s, and even $4 plus price territory. And think back to that time, 4,000 swap was the minimum requirement you had to have staked in order to get a launchpad allocation. So at that point in time, you're paying maybe 4,000, 8,000, 12,000 bucks to get in. Crazy, crazy stuff. But now with a bearish turn in the market, or bear market here, you can see that there's some steep discounts on offer. And I'm not saying to buy at this juncture, but to have this in your mind for the future bullish market when it does arrive, that there is going to be some really good opportunities to hold some crypto coins, I believe, that will go a lot higher and will have great utility, because in bull trends, people flock over launchpads. Trustswap is one of the originators in that sector. So rather than paying $12,000, with the new long-term staking pool, you get a multiplier on your staked swap the longer you stake it for. And if you stake for the maximum time, which is 5 years, you get a 10x multiplier. So this means that in order to get 4,000 on the stake score, so no longer are you required to hold 4,000 tokens, but just get a 4,000 score. That means you can buy just 400 of these and then stake them for 5 years, get that 10x multiplier, gets you to that 4,000 grand total. So that would cost you $144 in today's money. So just crazy to think how these market cycles work and the opportunities that do present themselves. So this is my kind of take on things now, looking at the positives from the bear market, trying to be excited by lower prices. If we get a lot lower on these things, you can see where we're going to end up in the future. Bull markets will return at some point. It's like, during the bullish times, everyone's like, the bullish times will never end. And then during the bearish times will never end. So we just go through these market cycles, and it's very interesting to see how this plays out here. Now, update number 1, EcoRise. So this is one of the incubated launch pads, or the first incubated launch pad from Trustswap. One that I helped to do some promotional work for as well. Been speaking to the team. They've had a bit of a rethink here due to the fact market conditions, once this was meant to go live, were absolutely abysmal. This was during the capitulation of BTC, and so they postponed that launch, which makes a lot of sense. So what they're doing now is going back to the drawing board a little bit, because the tokenomics design was similar to Luna and the UST model with the seigniorage mechanism. So I think there could be some, back to the drawing board, rethink the tokenomic structure, and then come out with a renewed date. So as soon as there's more information on that, that's as far as much as I know right now. They've had some good partnership announcements during this period as well, which is cool to see. But once we have more information, we'll bring that to the channel. But looking forward to this one when it goes live, due to the fact it's actually doing really good for the planet. Then we have this, an update here. So Trustswap, properly chain agnostic here. As we know, they're across ETH, AVAX, Polygon, BSC, but we can also add Pulse Chain to this as well. For the Hex fans out there, I know we got quite a few viewers who are very bullish on Hex. So the services that Trustswap provides here, things like the launchpad services, the minting, token generation, token vesting, liquidity locks, etc., will be added for Pulse Chain as well. So maybe that will take off and do wonders, and then that's just another string to the bow for Swap there. Now onto this. This was a highlight tweet. Jeff Kadakis here, CEO of Trustswap. Trustswap has hired 10 new employees within the last month, with baseline revenue continuously increasing. So during this bear period, I've been trying to look at some of the bags I've been holding, various altcoins I've been interested in, and seeing how they're doing, what kind of communications are coming from the team. Are they positive? Are they negative? Are they radio silence? And Trustswap is one of the few that seems to actually be doing pretty damn well. They've obviously managed their finances extremely well through the bull market and have a long runoff of finances and, are continually growing here. So they're actually a growing company even during a bear. So 10 new employees did reach out to them as well. They confirmed some new developers and business development team as well. So quite a few roles being filled there. They've also got a careers page you can check out if you want to get involved with a crypto company. So they're still growing, and this makes me highly bullish for the future here and the fact that this is not going to disappear during the bear market. So on to the long-term staking pool, LTSP for short. So this is the contract for it. It's live on ETH only at this moment in time, whilst, any issues are ironed out before going on to, multi-chain, AVAX, BSC, Polygon, the aforementioned chains that we just spoke about. So it's on ETH, and this is where you can start to lock in your tokens for predefined amounts of time. We'll go into how to actually do that in just a second on the dashboard. This is the contract address here, and the address is OX569, and it can be determined through Etherscan. You can see the little contract kind of emoji thing by here, but I'll leave that down below if you want to track this wallet. Fairly easy to find though, but currently around a week into this, and there's 3.25 million swap tokens in the actual contract. So 3.25 mil tokens are currently off the market for a time period of between 30 days locked up to 5 years. And as we get breakdowns of the data on this, I will post some things over on Twitter as well. So give me a follow at CryptoTubeYT. Again, in the description down below, we'll produce some nice graphics to see how this develops over time. I'm really interested to see how many people lock in for the maximum duration, as typically what I've seen with anything lock-based, you either get people going short, i.e. 30 days, the lowest, and then you get a lot of people going to the other extremity, which is maxing out at the 5-year duration there. So LTSP is now live, incentivizing and rewarding all swap holders for staking long term while improving the ecosystem. So major tokenomics changes here. The longer you stake, the higher your staking APY paid out in swap tokens, and also therefore it affects your launchpad allocation. So this stake score is what we're after here. So this is really interesting, and I think what it will do is really forge a stronger community, because what I've seen is a lot of people tweeting saying they support this, they've got in with a 5-year lock. This really gets huge community buy-in. With that, you're going to get people who are, guerrilla marketing. They're out there in the trenches shouting about their project because they've locked in for 5 years. They must really believe in this to do such a thing. So I think this will be good for community development, and hopefully we'll have a strong core within this swap community throughout this bear market. So allocation sizes will depend on your stake score in relation to the total stake score of everyone who applied for a launchpad. So if you hold a larger percentage of the pool, you get a larger allocation. Of course, US residents are not able to participate due to regulatory issues. That is, not the fault of Trustswap. That is what it is. US regulations are not the most friendly here. And so anyone who's outside of the US, I think having a launchpad coin within their portfolio in bullish times is very much worth it. I can speak from experience on that. So let's roll through this, some of the highlights of the long-term staking pool here. So as I say, this is going to be good for community engagement. Getting people locked in for a long duration means, we're galvanizing a real community here. So the longer you stake, the higher your staking APY. You're going to get more swap tokens as a result of that. Whether you want to compound those in to try and move up the rankings, get an even higher stake score, that is up to you. And also on top of this as well, with higher launchpad allocations, this does mean a lot of people are going to start locking up these coins for the longer duration, because maybe they haven't got the biggest of budget. Maybe they can only afford a few thousand Trustswap tokens, but they'll lock for 5 years to get the 10x multiplier to get higher launchpad allocation. So this will mean more scarcity for the token over the long run. So what have they done? They've initially bootstrapped the staking pool with 5 million swap tokens. So this is kind of the baseline staking, APY, like the tokens that are going to be released to the community. So this is over a 5-year period, so 1 million per year. So you're going to get an APY irrelevant of what happens in terms of the amount of buybacks here for the swap token. But additionally to that, any swap bought back through the various methods, which are through team finance, the crypto app, swappable fees, etc., they're going to still be piling into this. So the pool of tokens has a baseline of 5 million, but that will increase as we go forward. So there will be nice juicy APYs on the line. So if you want to accumulate more swap tokens and compound, that is my kind of thoughts and feelings towards this, putting a stack of them for the 5-year duration, getting the highest APY, and then compounding those gains to increase my overall stack of the swap tokens for the long run. But here is the calculation for the stake score. So it's the amount of swap stake multiplied by the time multiplier. So the amount of duration multiplied by the number of tokens. So you get a 1x multiplier. So that is the kind of base level, the entry requirement. No one can get involved here without staking for at least 30 days. Could make for some interesting dynamics around launchpad times as well, as people can lock in for 30 days to get allocations, etc. But that is the baseline here, 1x multiplier on a 30-day period. Then we have a 2x multiplier for a 1-year lock. And then we get up to the big boy level 10x multiplier for 5 whole years. And I have seen a lot of people locking in for that 5-year duration to max out the amount of stake score. So the maximum stake score you can possibly get is 1 million. And that would require you to lock 100,000 swap tokens for 5 years. 100,000 tokens multiplied by 5 years with a 10x booster equals a 1 million stake score. But this is where it gets interesting. So down here you can see the comparison that if someone just has 10,000 swap, but they do stake for a 5-year duration, they get a score here of 100,000. And that would be the same as someone with 100,000 tokens only going for a 30-day lock. So you are highly rewarded for your long-term optimism and your long-term commitment to the protocol here. So if you're a whale, but you're not very committed, well, a little guy here can lock in for 5 years and get the exact same privileges as you with your 100,000 swap due to the way that that score and the multiplier works. So this is beneficial for lower tier holders, I believe, and it is something, a dynamic that will be played out over the coming years, and you'll see a lot of people, I believe, coming in with smaller bags but locking up for that 5-year duration, and we'll see a lot of swap being taken up off the open market as a result of that. How does this affect the launchpad allocations? Well, rather than having the previous swap score, we now have the stake score, and this will actually determine the amount of allocation that you get. So depending on how many individuals apply for a various launchpad, they're going to take together all the total stake scores for everyone who's applied and see what your proportional amount of the stake score is. So the larger the percentage of the pool that you have, you'll get a larger allocation. So they say here, if the raise was $1 million, but you're the only person who applied, you'd get the full 1 million in allocation. And alternatively, say you have 1% of the total points, then you would get a $10,000 allocation in that instance. So you can work out, what you would get depending on how many people apply and what the total stake score of all participants is. More information here. Once a stake is created, stakers can add more swap to their existing stake at any time. So you can continue to top up. You can also increase the length. So maybe you'll start with 30 days, but after a while you decide, I want to boost that up to 5 years or something along those lines. You can do that at any point in time. This will then increase your staking APY as part of that process. Also on top of this as well, your longest stake is what determines your launchpad allocations. So if you've got, say, 10,000 tokens, you lock 5,000 for 30 days and 5,000 for 5 years. It's the 5,000 for 5 years that will determine your actual launchpad allocations as well. So bear that in mind as, you're working out the tactics behind this. You can also restake your earnings by clicking the compound button, compound interest, as Einstein says, the seventh wonder of the world. But do be aware, you cannot end your stake early. So if you lock in for 5 years, you are in for 5 years. There's no way to undo that time lock. You're committing to that duration. So take all things into consideration and make sure that if you click those buttons, there's no undo. And so you need to be responsible for any decisions that you do make. Of course, none of this financial advice. Do your own homework and make your own decisions here. Some FAQs to go through. It's currently only on ETH as mentioned, but there will be access for the long-term staking pool on Polygon, AVAX, and BSC in the future. You can only get Launchpad access via long-term staking pool. And so at this moment in time, they have this kind of 1 month grace period. So any new ones that get launched right now, you'd actually be okay with your previous staking model. If you haven't unstaked, you need to wait 7 days to actually unstake and then restake to the long-term staking pool. But after this 1 month grace period has ended, long-term staking is the only way forward. So that will require you to get in for a minimum of 30 days. And on top of this as well, they've got this kind of their own community here that's going to be built out by the most, bullish of supporters here. So anyone who stakes 100,000 swap for 5 years will be invited to the Trustswap VIP Community Council. So I think this will be maybe a Telegram channel where you're going to have access to the team and, share ideas with other big supporters of the swap token. So over on the dashboard, this is what the long-term staking pool looks like. You just click on the button over here, long-term staking, create a new lock, and then you can play around with the slider just over here. So you can see a 1x multiplier currently, and the APY changes as we go. So the baseline APY on 1x is 8.4%. And if you do a 5-year lock all the way up here with a 10x multiplier, the APY goes to 84% in total. So that is the power of locking up for longer. On top of this as well, if you want to just, do some more. So if you've got one already existing, you can add a new lock on top of it. As I mentioned, you can have multiple locks for different durations. If you want to maybe make some tokens liquid in a year's time, you can do that. You can think through all of these things yourself. How would I actually go about buying some of these tokens? If I were to buy some right now, it would be via the barter contracts due to the fact you get a discount on the current market price. So for me, this is a no-brainer way of actually doing the shopping once you are prepared to do this. And if you do the 4-month wait, so these tokens are not liquid for 4 months, but you're locking in a price and getting a nice discount for this. You click 4 months and you can see down here, you get a 10% discount. So market price 36 cents, but you'll be able to pick those up for 33 cents, but they will not be liquid straight away. So this is a way to obviously get a discount on market price, but you've got to wait for those tokens. So all things to consider. I think this is a decent way of actually accumulating the tokens, and especially if you're going to get in with a bigger bag, you might not find that during a bear market the liquidity is great on tokens, and so this might be the best way to actually accumulate a nice stack. Of course, not financial advice, just bringing you the information as and when it arrives here, as I am bullish on swap for the long run. I think they're going to have extreme network effects when the crypto app goes fully live, and during a bullish phase in the market, we'll see a lot of people get back into Launchpad tokens. They'll want to use the Trustswap ecosystem, utilizing the crypto app, staking their coins, staking their stable coins as well. I think there'll just be a whole ecosystem built here that will be kind of closed loop, and people will just use it as an investment platform. And so I think for the future, this is going to be a pretty big protocol, in my opinion. Just my humble opinion, not financial advice, all of that good stuff. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.